Now, when you thought that Tory corruption couldn't get any worse, well, it does. Serco, a company with a controversial history, was awarded a contact tracing contract worth £108 million some time ago. Well, the same company was just fined £2.6 million for its failures surrounding another government contract. The fine, which in the business is called a service credit, what wonderful language, was issued because of shortcomings on the asylum seeker accommodation contract that the company held between September 2019 and January this year. Now, this isn't the first time Serco was actually fined. Last year it received another fine for £1 million due to issues dealing with accommodation for asylum seekers. Now, Labour last week revealed a leaked document that states that Public Health England approached Serco to help with preparations for the pandemic back in January. This was at the same time failures were being highlighted in the problematic accommodation contract. The contract tracing carried out by Serco has been a disaster, which had the company put in a position where it had to apologise following breaches in data protection where they inadvertently revealed the email addresses of new recruits. Now, Serco has been criticised also for the fact that contact tracers have been sitting around doing nothing, while figures show that half of the people from the same household as the person infected have actually been traced. So, you're probably asking yourself the question, if the company is so incompetent at its job, then why does the government continue to give them millions of pounds in contracts? Well, it's a quite simple answer, really. Edward Argar, who is a junior health minister, is also a former Serco lobbyist. But what is also interesting is that the chief executive of Serco is none other than Rupert Soames, the grandson of Sir Winston Churchill. This is a case of pure corruption. A member of government is a former lobbyist. The current CEO was a member of the same club that Boris Johnson was a member of, the Burlington Club, and Mr. Soames' own brother was a senior member of government. Now, Serco has responded to the news of the fine. Its contract director for accommodation and support services, Jenny Halliday, said, and I quote, "As the NAO report states, Serco is broadly meeting performance standards set by the department and has on average improved our performance on addressing emergency maintenance issues and on resolving people's complaints." She then went on to say, "We are confident that given the challenges posed by the pandemic, we are providing decent, safe, secure accommodation for the people in our care." A typical business-like response, where they ignore the fact that they have received a fine and refuse to take responsibility for any wrongdoing on their behalf. This is part of the process to sell off the NHS. Serco is currently involved mainly in prison and refugee accommodation services, but the track and trace system is a major step forward for this company. The selling off of the NHS is going to take place in steps. You can see how this pandemic has allowed the Tories to sell the public the idea that the NHS alone isn't capable of dealing with it, and that it needs quote-unquote help from the private sector. When Matt Hancock and Boris Johnson stood at the lectern and disgustingly thanked the private sector for their help, this was to soften up the public towards the idea of private interventions in the future. You have to remember the whole idea of privatization of the NHS is currently quite toxic. So the Tories are basically using the response to the pandemic as a PR campaign for privatisation. The Tories and their friends in business are looking for more and more ways to get a slice of the healthcare pie. We have seen how party members act as lobbyists and those in business use their contacts to get a foothold. Sadly, I see this as one step on a long road to complete privatisation of the NHS. I truly hope that the people of Britain can stand up to the politicians and stop this madness. The next election is some time away, and even if Boris Johnson isn't the Prime Minister by the time it arrives, it is important that whoever is in charge of the government is held to account, because we can't privatise the health of ordinary people. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. Why not become a Patreon and enjoy access to our Discord server where we share news, chat, and have some fun? If you become a patron, you can also make video suggestions on topics that are important to you. Check it out via the link in the description.